Alrighty, I got this standard poodle girl in today, and I've already gotten some of the ears shaved, but I thought I'd go ahead and make a video on this girl. She's quite tangled up. Mom and them have a lot of property, and you know, life happens, and things get away from you sometimes, so I'm going to start with a 5 and see if I can get through that. I already did her clean face. Like I said, I buzzed out what I could out of her ears. I'm going to see after the bath what this looks like once it's, brushed out and everything. And if it doesn't look good, I'm not going to keep it. I'll just shave it off. But yeah, starting with a 5 to see if I can get a 5 going. So far, it's alright. When you're doing tangled dogs like this, it's good to have more than one blade of every length that you have. To be honest, you should have more than one blade. I usually say to have 2 to 3 of everything. That way, when you're working and the blade gets warm, you can switch it out instead of using the spray between. I prefer to just switch it out instead of spraying it. But there are some times where the blade is still really warm after it has sat in between another blade being used, and then I'll go ahead and use the spray. It's fine. But yeah, I'm trying with the 5 now. I'm not really going to force it to do anything, so if it's like flat out not going, I'm going to switch down to a 7. One thing that I have found with matted coats, and if you have a 2-speed like this, if you turn it all the way up, you got 1, 2. I found that with just the first speed, it somehow seems to go through matting better. So I just pull the skin taut and do that. Now I'm always making sure there's no skin tags or anything like that, and if you pull it taut, you're not going to then run the risk of cutting the skin. And it's really difficult in this area to begin with because of all the folds for the neck. But yeah, so see, it's on setting 1, speed 1, and it's getting through that better than if I had it all the way up. And so I just go back and forth like that. Higher speed for the looser areas so you can get through it faster. But then for those tighter areas where it's more scary, drop the speed down. And if that still doesn't work, if you're trying to get a longer coat for your client, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And so you're going to have to go to the next length. But one thing that I have found, pre-shaving a dog, you have to do it regardless if it's, as tangled up as she is. You have to pre-shave because there's no physical way that you can make this dog clean in the bath with the tangles, the matting that is here. It would be pretty astounding if the water ever touched the skin. So if you go through, with example, a 7, a lot of the times, once you take and get them in the bath, they're going to, their hair is going to plump up, and then you can go over that with a 5 or even sometimes a 4, and you're still going to be catching hair because now it's all fluffed up and not laying down or crinkled up, because you know how poodle hair is, it's curly, so it kinks up, and once you blow it out and everything, you're going to have a longer coat. So that's a saving grace when it comes to trying to get a longer cut. Sometimes you can't, but sometimes, you know, it still works out. But in the end, you're doing what's best for the dog. It's, you know, humanity over vanity. No dog should ever be put into pain for dematting. There are dematting methods that are painless, but there are also cases like this one where those dematting processes would not work for her, just because it's so thick. If I was to go through and, example, pull apart a mat, or take my thinning shears and, you know, clip on the mat itself to break it down, she's just too enveloped that there's just not enough time in a day for that. Thankfully, at this moment in time, she's my only client for the day. Was not by design, but it might be best to be like that. So now I'm not, struggling to make sure I fit a time space. So yeah. So you just slowly work through it. Now, when you're using a longer blade, like the 5 or the 4, you have longer time before the blade heats up. The metal is thicker, so it takes longer before the heat becomes an issue. So in a few minutes, I'll be switching out my other 5 blade and carrying on while this one then cools down. I have a marble tile that I got from Lowe's. You can get it at any home improvement store that carry flooring. So basically you go over and you get a 12 by 12, or, you know, they have smaller pieces of marble tile for under $5, maybe $5 at the max. But even if it's more than $5, it's still worth it, because it's something that you're going to have forever. You know, this is something that will never need to be replaced unless some unfortunate series of events where it gets knocked off and broken. But anyhow, yeah, get you a marble tile. Cool the blade between. I think that marble works best because, I don't know, it's just such a cool stone. But I've heard other groomers use other types of stone and still get pretty much the same. So yeah, just whatever you feel like getting, but definitely go with that. Now here's something else. On the sides of the necks and things like that, because there's so many folds in the neck, it's dangerous because you can catch the skin. Something that I like to do when it comes to, like, right here, there's like a weird cowlick where the hairs are growing in opposite directions and meeting, and so then the hair has that variant there. Sometimes this area is very, you know, loose skin and whatnot. I like to take my blade and go like this, because if you come and you go straight down like that, you have the chance of catching the skin. So when you do it like that, you can also get underneath mats better when you go side to side like that. I do that a lot with the legs. I see a lot of groomers making the mistake of going down all the way around, and then you get at the end and you got this big ball of matted hair that's really difficult to get through. And I get it. When I was a newer groomer doing this, I would do the same thing. But then I discovered if you take and you go straight down one side of it, whatever side you feel like using, the dog's matting may not be as severe on one side of the leg as the rest of the leg. But once you get, that space cleaned up, that hole, whatever, then you can go sideways and you can get through the matting more when you're going that sideways method. Sometimes you can't make a full pass even going down one side of the leg that's not as matted. And so then what I'll do is I'll take like my 10 blade and I'll just take it to the very edge right there and I'll come down the leg and just make a path. I'll just cut through it with my blade and make it to where you can access them. There are some times where you can use scissors. I don't suggest using scissors, but you can. So when you get to this little turkey Wobble, and she's, a little passive about it, if you can get them to extend their neck all the way, you can almost stretch it out, but still try to go side to side. There are some times you can go straight on like I'm doing now, but you got to be extremely, extremely careful. You have to know what you're doing, or you're going to literally cut the dog's throat, and it's scary. I have not done that, and I hope I never have that occurrence that happens. But if you take and you pull the skin to the side, this is not hurting the dog. It's just gentle manipulation to pull that skin, make it taut. Because once the skin is taut, then you can actually work your blade underneath the zones that you're trying to trim safely. If you don't make it taut, you have that risk of the skin being pulled into your blade. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. And this is a zone that a lot of people don't think about as far as a danger zone. A lot of people think of the inside of armpits or the up tuck, and yes, those are extremely scary areas. But this zone right here on the edge of the armpit, this skin that connects right here is super thin and can be cut really easily. So you just got to be careful. Know your angles, because if you do come straight down with a matted coat like this, that's, the likelihood of catching that skin flat. Alright, I'm going to break it down into my first speed and go through some of this. And yes, I can definitely go down a blade in this zone and you'll never notice. And that's what I'm going to have to do here. Unfortunately, I have to go a little bit shorter because my 5 is not doing it even when I'm pulling it taut. So this is one of those times that you have to say, okay, that's as much as I can do there with that blade. Always check your blades, check it here. Whatever is uncomfortable for you will be uncomfortable for them. So, and you just kind of chip away. Just going slowly. This dog's only a year old. Actually, her birthday is in a couple of days, 9 or 10 days from now. And skin tags are not very common when you have a younger dog like this, but anything is possible and it could still happen, so just be mindful of that. She is intact, so usually intact dogs are going to have larger nipples, so you'll have to make sure that you're being ginger when you're going through with the thicker blade. This piece just come off. My personal goal with these dogs is to try to get it all off in one piece, but unless they're extremely, extremely neglected, it usually comes off in separate spots because the coat isn't 100% neglected. They tried. And I always give people the benefit of the doubt. This is not necessarily somebody who intentionally let their dog get this way. A dog can, with this much coat, can go into a pool or a pond and come out within a couple of days and be like this. She definitely, this is recent matting because, I mean, you can tell. After a certain amount of years grooming, you can tell that this is a freak incident that, you know, just recently occurred, and it just got too bad, and so now I'm fixing it. I don't judge people. There have been videos and stuff on Facebook and YouTube and things like that where I see things and I'm like, wow, that's a real shame that dog was in that condition. But now it's being cared for. It may be the same person. Maybe they were going through their depression. I've neglected my own self with depression, so things happen, and you can't judge people for it. It's easy to sit on the other side of the screen and have opinions on stuff you don't know anything about. So I like to let them sit as long as possible because, you know, having to stand up this whole time can't be terribly comfortable. So allowing them to sit some when I'm doing areas that they don't physically have to stand is going to save their energy, and then they're going to be able to go through like what I'm doing here. Going through this thicker zone in the back. Don't forget that up tuck. I like to reach underneath and guide to make sure that stays straight while I'm going down the outer edge. You can manipulate the skin in all kinds of directions just by gentle manipulation. Like, I don't know if the camera can see it really, but just pulling it like that is making it taut, where I can buzz through this. So you don't always have to pinch the skin. You can gently roll the skin. Even the small pinching, that's not going to hurt the dog. Because you're not physically actually pinching it, you're just gathering it gently. Always on the insides of the legs and the armpits, sanitary regions, you're going to use a 10. I know that some people like to go 7s and, you know, longer lengths, but it's really dangerous. And besides, there's so much matting on her that using one of those blades would be very dangerous, because the 7 blade is the most notorious for catching skin because the teeth on the clipper blade is wider. It's wider so that you can gather more skin through it, or not skin. I'm sorry, that's what happens. But you can gather more hair in it, and it goes, because of the length of the blade, it goes shorter. But anyhow, in the sanitary, all that area is really thin skin, so it's more susceptible to being torn or cut. So you just got to be careful. Now, if they get to the point where she's kind of reaching now, where she's not voluntarily standing, and she doesn't have a physical reason not to stand, I have a sling that I can put up underneath her belly, and it will assist in holding her up and not letting her sit down. Switch out blade zones, good and warm. And oftentimes, don't think this is just laziness. You have to think that there's got to be a level of discomfort once you're in these kind of more private zones with the hair pulling and things like that, that they're not likely doing it to get on your nerves or that they need a break. It's just that it's uncomfortable. And unfortunately, we can't tell them and then fully understand that what we're doing is making this go away, and it's going to be uncomfortable for a few minutes, and then it's going to be over. But yeah, so this side, you can see how I'm rolling it. Roll it like that, you get the skin taut, you can go underneath the matting. And just let your blade do the work. Gentle pressure. You never want to push through, because you don't know what is under here. There could be an injury. There could be a hot spot that has a scab, and you could probably catch the corner of the scab and peel it back, and then that's a mess. So sometimes they'll do that. They'll push to the back of the table, and then you have to readjust them because they forget there's a whole front of the table going on. And you see, she stands up. She's all right. I've got my hand between her legs, giving her support so that she doesn't sit down. In a second, I'm going to reach up and through to this up tuck. You can see my hand up underneath. This is just guaranteeing that that up tuck stays flat, and that I can go directly down just like this. Don't go like this, go down. Just like that. Break it down to the first gear. I'm also feeling for boobies, making sure that I don't accidentally catch any. I'm going to have to go through with the shorter blade in that. So yeah, just using your other arm, giving gentle support, helps them stand too. I don't know of any one-armed groomers out there, but if you are doing it with one arm, kudos to you, that's amazing. But I see too many videos where the groomer is either not using their second arm, they're either got their hand on the table, or it's just nowhere to be found, and it's like the dog's acting up a little bit, And that second hand can just be assurance to them and make them stand. But they fuss over them, wanting to sit, but they're not preventing them from sitting either. You know. Sometimes the legs are really difficult to shave because, you know, it's just thin skin covering the legs, and the blade will catch the skin. And it's hard because there's not a whole lot of give in this area. But you see what I'm doing? I'm going down to one side. I'm leaving the other side alone for now. Just getting it as low as I can. Alright. I got to get a lower blade. Alright, Mr. 7. No, you want to sit, huh? Let you sit for now. I can do this. There's no use in fighting a dog. If you have other things that you can do, go ahead and let them have that. Like, they want to sit, go ahead. I can do this. So that was the 7 that I was using to clear out that path. Now this is the 10. Like I said, only 10s in the armpits and the sanitary. It's the safest blade. You can still cut a dog, however. You just have to know what you're doing, how you're holding your equipment, making sure you're not pressing too hard. If your blades are dull, you can still cut a dog, even if it is the safest blade there is. So these are all things to keep in mind. For me, I've had a hard time finding blade sharpeners that are good. So unfortunately, most of the time I just buy new blades instead of getting them sharpened, just because my area doesn't have really good ones. Alright. Armpits are clear. I'm going to go ahead and work on her inner leg, her sanitary, and get that cleared out. So then get to the back of her and get this big bunch of hair off that she's not too happy about at the moment. Forgive my silence, but I was concentrating and watching the skin and making sure I wasn't cutting anything. Now this is one thing that a lot of people don't consider when you have a dog who's as tangled up as she is. When you go over the entire dog, you have to go over the entire dog and do a preliminary groom. Everyone has different words for it. The way I learned, this was called the rough-in, and it's just basically roughly getting the hair off. A lot of the times when you do a rough-in, it's just, because the dog's getting a really low cut, and the dog has a lot of existing hair, and you need to remove that hair to make the bathing go faster. In those situations, I have a time frame that I say I'm not spending more than 5 minutes doing the rough-in. So it's a fast and furious swipe down of the entire body of whatever desired blade that your finished groom will be. By doing that 5 minutes that it took you to quickly buzz, trouble zones for the entire dog, you're removing the hair, you're removing the time that it takes to then wash that zone and everything. So there we go. This is, for the most part, both of her hind legs. No. She had some poopies stuck back there. Sometimes, so like this blade is really dirty now because I went through some poo. So I'm going to set it aside, and I'll use my other 10 blade for anything I need to. But sometimes when they have, tangled up hair like that, it makes it to where the potty zones are really irritated. They can, get raw, things like that, because of the poo just sticking and not going anywhere, or the urine, the urine is acidic, so it's going to irritate that skin, and sometimes they can be quite raw and require assistance from a vet with a topical ointment to get those areas nice. You getting upset? You getting like this is enough? You can't sit like that because you're choking yourself. Alright, so we're to the point now where I'm going to head and use my sling. I have 2, technically I have 3, but I'm going to see if this one works best for her. And if it's not, I'll move to the second one. So anyway, it just works like that. This one seems like it's not going to be enough. So I'll probably have to adjust that to the other one. But, okay. So let's go ahead. I'm working on the inside of this leg. Like I said, work all the way down to one side, whatever side you can, and then go sideways. Because going sideways, the hair lays differently. And you can get up underneath stuff that you weren't able to get up underneath. And sometimes you'll have to go down to a shorter blade to go underneath the mat when, if you just know your angles and how to trim, you don't have to use a shorter blade. I'm not trying to reward bad behavior. You know, some people say if they let their dog get like that, they should just automatically get a chin shave or, you know, something like that. And I'm not saying that that's not, you know, the right thing to do, but it's not necessarily the right thing every time. If you got a dog who is, the owners are habitual offenders, I get you. You're doing what's right for the dog at that point. You're not doing anything but helping the dog. You're not punishing the owner by going short. You're helping the dog, because if they're habitually letting the dog get into that condition, then they can't maintain a longer coat to begin with. So there's no need in them having a longer coat. So up here, where I'm working at now, is a trouble zone. What happens is, there's like a dip. I don't know if you can see how my finger is basically entering this leg. It's where the tendon and the bone lay. And so you got that dip, and oftentimes it's matted in there. But if you do this sideways method, you can get in there easily without hurting the dog. Because if you're going like this, you're going to pull the skin, it's going to cut the dog. So her coat has a lot of sand in it, so that's really bad for my blades. But to be honest, you know, look at all this dirt everywhere. Blades may not be necessarily cheap, but they're not crazy expensive either. So I don't know, if you can't afford to here and there buy a new blade, I don't know if what you're doing is right. Like, something's wrong. I don't know. I get why buy new if you don't have to, but in the same token, I would have never been able to get to the skin. There would have still been hair, there would have still been dirt located near the skin that I would have either had to rewash. You know, that's more time. Time is money. Alright, so that blade's hot. Let's switch. This time I'm going to work on the outside and then in, because I'm right-handed and it's easier to do it with this leg. Alright, so let me just start down here then. she's still able to sit with this one, so I'm going to have to get the shorter one. You have to stand up, honey girl. You're making it hard for yourself. If you stand up, you won't choke. And you'll be comfortable. Sometimes it be like that. Alright, I'm going to have to get 7. Yep. I gotta get to 7. You're choking yourself, honey girl. If you stand up, you won't choke. You can stand. See, they'll panic. You're fine. Yeah. You're fine. That's all it takes. Is just to be calm and collected with them, and then they're fine. I had adjusted it where the loop was further up the chain so that she wouldn't back out and down the table as much. That was the reason behind that. So she's still trying to back down the table, and so now she's choking herself. My stuff is so sandy. Like I'm at the beach. See now, with grooms like this, and you're doing the pre-shave like I was mentioning earlier, you're never going to know, unless it's you, that you had to use lower blades in certain zones. You'll never know it, because with the pre-shave and then you put them in the bath and the hair comes back to life. I'll still have to go back over this hair when we're done, because of the time, because of the hair coming back up. Just like I said, it's one of those things where time can really get away from you in the groom like this. And so, you know, people get upset because something's taking a longer time than it doesn't normally take that long, but you know, you gotta go slow. You gotta make sure the dog is comfortable. You gotta make sure that you're not working incorrectly. Just making sure that you get everything right for the dog's safety, for your equipment, for time. We are almost done. I got to finish this foot, get her tail, and I'm not even going to brush on her top knot. I'm just going to pile it up with conditioner in the tub and let my product do the job. That's something that a lot of people don't think about, is the products that you have are going to help you a long, long way, more than a brush sometimes. So don't skimp on your products. Use good stuff. It costs a little bit more, but it's going to make your job easier. You're going to be able to do more because the product is working. I'll be doing clean feet on her, so that's why I'm just going ahead with the 10 and catching this now to get the matting off. And then when we're done with the bath and she comes back out, I'll do clean feet. I try to do it before the bath a lot of the time, but she's so dirty. Alright, now I'm gonna I'll let you sit and pull your little butt to the side and I'll do your tail. I have to get this off. There we go. And what's cool about these is you can wash them. So like that one definitely will be hitting the wash. Next time I run it, because that's pretty pretty dirty now. the same situation with the tail as the legs. Go all the way down to one side. Start working side to side to get the rest. For anyone who has not done the side to side method, and you try it now after me showing you about it, comment, let me know how it worked for you. Is it a game changer? Is it the same? I just want to know everyone's opinions on it. It seems to work really well for me, and just trying to help people out. She's really reactive to everything I'm doing to her. She is a little dramatic. Look at how cute you are now. Yeah, you're gonna be really pretty. All right, I'm gonna do her paw pads, and then we're gonna go to the toe. So I got a 5-in-1. I got the Wall Cormado. They come in white and black. I think I've seen red before too, but it's a 5-in-1 blade. So I always personally do the 40 on the paw pads. If you're new to grooming and you're not used to using equipment such as this, don't use the 40. Use a higher length, because the 40 can and will cut skin very quickly. So if you don't know your angles and how to get inside of the paw pad properly, don't do it with a 40. Use a 10. It's going to be better for you. You're going to get pretty much the same effect, except just a tad bit hairier by using a 10 than a 40. 40 pretty much makes sure there's barely any hair left within the paw pad. But it's not, like I said, it's not something that a newbie should be doing. Get your skills in on the 10, and then eventually lead up to using the 40. It's so quiet in my salon today because when I had arrived to the shop, she was already waiting outside. The owner wasn't pushy or nothing. She wasn't trying to get in early. I told her, I said, let me just go inside and get everything turned on. Well, I turned on the lights. I turned on my grooming sign being open. And that's pretty much it. I have a TV in my lobby that I've been turning on and putting Golden Girls on all day, and so I can hear it from in here. I didn't have to do that, just then it was kind of annoying me. I could have left it, like there's other areas, but that particular spot was bothering me to be left. Anyhow, and then I have my Alexa, who's like, what? Anyhow.
If you don't know, I think you might be in trouble soon.
Anyhow, I have music and stuff playing, but when I started doing her face, I said, you know what, let me just go ahead and film this, because it's been a little while since I posted a video, and I thought this one would be a cool groom to watch. So we're going to get into the tub, and you'll see her once she is clean. Alright, now we're going to finish her room. She has been washed washed and dried. I cleaned off the table, all that sand. I did a little bit of sweeping just to get the majority of it. So, she's got a nice fluffed out coat now. I'm considering maybe going back over it with the 4, you know, since it's longer, give her a longer cut if I can, but we'll see. I'm gonna go over it with the 4 and see how much comes off, and then if I don't have a lot come off, then I'll go ahead with the 5. So this is back brushing. You're going to want to do this to make the hair as straight as it can be, and this will make it easier to groom. You're going to catch more hair this way. Instead of brushing like that, brush it like that. So. 4. So on this area right here where the bone, and then you got the tendon, you got that space, just push into the inside of it, and it makes it where you can shave that zone. I wish I would have started recording this at the beginning when she first got here, because she had the clean face from a prior groom that was growing back in, and it looked to be probably about 2 months worth of growth, and you could see how long her coat was. She wouldn't have that much coat if she was matted when she was groomed last. So that goes into showing some of the things about not judging people and how fast things can really go bad. When you have this longer coat, anything is possible like that. You can mess up one weekend and then, you know, you're screwed. I know I said earlier not to go this way, but I'm not near the uptuck, and I'm just putting my hand there to block it anyhow. I didn't figure a whole lot would come off, but I'm happy with what I'm seeing with the 4, so I think that's what I'm going to do. She's evening out with the 4, and I do a maximum of 2 back brushings, and then I call it. Because if you continue to back brush, you're just wasting time. If the hair didn't get caught on the first or the second, that hair's not going anywhere. With the blade, then you can use your shears to go back over and neaten things up. Shears are your finishing work regardless. There is no, okay, I'm done after I've shaved the dog. You have to go behind, find those little sticky outy hairs, and scissor them up to make it look like a good finished groom. So yeah, I'm really excited about this cut on her. She looks really nice. And it just feels good to know that you basically made it to where that coat didn't all have to be shaved to nothing. I'm not out here telling people they should or should not do something. And so if you, in your heart, feel like you have to use a 7 or a 10 to shave down a matted dog, go for it. But there are other ways. I won't do the wet shave method. That's just me. That's a lot of work, number one. But if you believe in the wet shave method and you're mad about what I just did, then you're being a hypocrite, because the idea behind the wet shave is to get a longer coat. That's fine. Go for your longer coat with your wet shave, but I won't do it. I'll have to go back in her armpits again with my 10 and catch the little things that I missed. I also missed a little matted spot on the back side of her top knot, so I will have to go over that again. But you see how well she's doing for everything? This is a dog that gets groomed. If this dog was not a dog that gets groomed, it would not tolerate any of this that I'm doing right now. It would not hold its hand out straight. It would be pulling back. It would be throwing itself around on the table. It's just one of those things. Another, way to show you that just because the dog got matted doesn't mean it's neglected. Doesn't mean it doesn't get groomed. It's just, it happened. Now we're resetting the coat for them to grow it back out and make it beautiful again. And I'm hoping that I will be in that future to watch the process. The owner has at least 3 standard poodles to my knowledge. I've already groomed one. This is number 2. And I'm hoping that I will continue to be her groomer. Just something really cool about grooming standard poodles. I have another video on my channel of a top knot that I groomed and how to groom a top knot, and I'll do a second one with this dog. But it's funny, it's going to be the same situation as last time a little bit, where the dog is black and so it's harder to see the coat on video. So once again, I'll be showing you how to do a top knot on a black dog. I just don't remember to record when I have white or cream, apricot, whatever colored standards in, or minis for that matter. But you can see my process of it and do it on your own dog or customer's dog. Don't forget, I'll be doing clean feet, so that's why I'm not going all the way down the foot right now. I have to go back behind and do the paw pads again. because just like with the rest of the body, there's going to be hair that comes to life in the foot that I will have to trim out again also. Why do I do it when I have to do it again? Because it's going to affect the time. If you have a dog that's got super hairy feet and you just bathe it, most of the time, unfortunately, dogs do not like it when you blow dry their feet. I don't know why, but they don't. So, if you have a super hairy footed dog, that spot's going to be really wet for a long time. If they don't allow you to hand blow it, because you put them in the kennel dryer, they're usually sitting or standing on their feet, and so the bottoms of their pads still don't get dry, and it just becomes a bigger issue. I'm going to wait to do the back of her neck and then start her top knot. I'm going to go in with my 10 now and get the sanitary and everything cleaned up. So I didn't have a recording of it earlier because I didn't do it yet, but I'm going to go ahead and do this blade. This is not the one that I first used, the really dirty one, but it still had sand and everything I used. I do that to get out the excess moisture, and then you're going to go ahead and oil. I probably use too much oil, but I'd rather use too much than not enough, because I'm going to then wipe it out. But yeah, so now if you wipe it out like that, you don't have a whole bunch of oil sitting on the blade that you're then going to trim the dog, and then you're going to transfer the oil to the dog, so I'm trying not to do that. So let's go ahead and do the sanitary again. There's a couple of spots that were missed, and that's okay, because it was, like I said, it was the rough end. It was not the finished groom. It was to get the bulk off, and that's it. Now, what I just did here is I skimmed that area very lightly, skim across it to get all those little itty bitty hairs that stick out. It's safer to skim this with your 10 than it is to go back over it scissoring, because you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room when you have a pair of shears when you're cutting, because if the dog moves, either it sneezes, it coughs, it doesn't like what you're doing, and it decides it's going to move, you could be mid-cut on your shear and catch that skin, and that's a big bleeding area. It's a lot of problems. So, like I said, just skim it. If the dog is too reactive, do your best. You can take that method where you're holding it from the inside. You can continue to go down until it's good. Alright, so I'm going to do her clean feet. I'm not 100% sure if she's used to having it done, so she could possibly be irritated by it. You'd be surprised how many standard poodles do not care for the clean feet. And the only reason I'm doing it wasn't a request. With the matting that was located on the toes and stuff like that, it's just safer to go ahead and cut that away with a shorter blade than trying to work a longer blade in those areas, because like right here, she's got a large, massive mat right here, and I just gotta do my thing to work it out. Now I use a 10 for the most part. You can use a 15 for clean feet. Some people even use a 30. Some even use a 40. Sometimes I'll do it with my 10 first, and then I'll go back over it with a 30 and just clean it up. So like I said, she's not used to this part. So basically you're going to take edge to edge. Like if you're doing, say this is the 4th toes, right? You're going to use this edge to go on this side, this edge to go on this side, and scooping out so that you're not cutting the webbing between the toes. And I think I'm going to drop down to my Chromato, my 5-in-1 to do this instead. Because for some reason, I don't know the math behind it, the science. Some reason with the Chromato, a 5-in-1 blade, it doesn't get hot like it does with a regular clipper. And so I'll just use my Chromato instead. So I bumped it down to the 10. And some people like this better. Anyhow, I could go either way. It's difficult when they're difficult. So yeah, it's the same thing, inside out. As far as other 5-in-1 clippers out there, everybody has their preferences. You got the Bravara, you got, you know, all these other brands for the 5-in-1. I just like my Chromato. I don't know. Always be careful when they want to investigate what you're doing with their hand. You don't want them to lick, because sometimes they can cut their tongue if they try to lick while you're doing, you know, something with a blade like that. Be it shears, be it clipper blade. We do not want cut tongues. And so I'll do her nails in a moment, but I wanted to show you, because like I said, this can go in between all the different settings. So like I'm on the 40 now, I'll drop down to the 30. And just to clean it up, you can go across it like this. So like, you know, she was acting up a little bit, you couldn't catch everything with the reverse. But if you do it like this, you're going to go ahead and catch all those little pieces that you missed. And it makes it look real clean. But her nails, as soon as I'm done with all of her feet, I'll do her nails real quick. I don't know how she'll like it. I don't know. Like you can tell a dog is used to services with, you know, some things, like especially blow dryer. But not every groomer uses the same tools. So not every groomer is going to be dribbling the nails. Some old school groomers just like to clip it and be done. So I like to Dremel, and if she will tolerate tolerate it, I will do that. But I don't know how she's going to act for it, so we'll cross that bridge in a minute. Just going to go ahead and finish these feet. And for left-handed people, it's always the right side of the body that's the problem. For right-handed people, it's the left side. And so it's really hard for me in this foot to do clean feet on because I struggle so much. So that's why it takes a little bit longer. I know a lot of groomers like to say, oh, I can do this service in 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and try to stick to that. And that's, that's cool and all. It's good to have goals and trying to get consistency. But you're working with a live animal. Most of those rules and things that you're trying to do go out the window because you're working on something who may or may not like what you're doing. So some dogs I can do the clean feet in 5 minutes. I can do all the feet in 5 minutes. And then some dogs it's 10 minutes. Some dogs it's 15. Some that's 25. And usually I don't put up with dogs that are really agitated by it. If the dog doesn't like it that much, that it's taking you 20 minutes or more to do a clean foot, don't do it. Just tell the owner, I'm sorry, I can't do that service. Discount it if you want, tell them you can't discount it, whatever you want to do. Unfortunately, not everybody can do the same thing on each dog. Yeah, I've had dogs come in where it's been groomed many a time by someone else. And the moment I get it, it doesn't either like me or a process that I'm doing that it doesn't like because it's not used to it. That's just what it is. So if the owner wants to complain and say, well, such and such did it for me every single time, well, I'm not such and such, and your dog didn't allow me to do that service. A lot of times confidence has a lot to do with it. How you feel. If you're upset, if you're angry, the dog's going to sense those things and it's going to act up. So like if you're having a bad day, all the dogs are giving you a run for your money on that day, it's likely that they're just feeding off of your frustration, whether it be that just all of them were bad dogs that day, but mostly it's because of your anxiety, your frustrations are rubbing off onto the dog, and then they in turn act up. For my groomers out there who need to hear it, drink water. I'm the kind of person that unless it's not in my face, I'm not going to do it. So have your bottle of water, drink your water. your grinder, don't forget that you can catch hair really easily. So like she was just, nosing around seeing me trimming her nails. If she had any hair sticking down, it could have easily gotten stuck in your Dremel. And there have been some really bad things happen to dogs, unfortunately, that has happened to. There's been dogs who have had their tails amputated because of it. The hair gets stuck around the Dremel and then the skin and everything come off of the tail. There was this one case where this small poodle, toy poodle or something, made headlines because the groomer was dremeling the nails and the dog leaned down and put its head down and its ear got stuck in the Dremel. And I guess the model that she had was just so powerful, the force of everything, it broke the dog's neck and it died. I'm not telling you these things to not Dremel nails. Dremeling nails is oftentimes the safest, best thing to do, especially if you have customers who have a blood condition, like they have thin blood, or they're using thinners and stuff because of, stroke and heart issues, high blood pressure. I mean, still use the Dremel because it's going to help these people out. But just be mindful about where ears are and things like that. I noticed some hair sticking out. I could go behind it with scissors and scissor it, but sometimes you gotta give your hands a break. It's not that quick and easy to buzz away. I'll still go behind these shears, but I just wanted to do that. Something that I like to do when I have a dog and it's got really long, flowy ears and I'm dremeling, I like to take a hair tie, like our normal hair ties, and just, clamp them up. It's only for a couple of minutes, it's not going to hurt anything, and you're not doing it terribly tight either. So, let me do the back of her neck, and then we'll do her top knot, and then we'll go behind and scissor the rest. I'm just going to go ahead and get this guy in spot shave. Another reason I wish I would have started recording earlier before I did, because I would have showed y'all my little trick to getting mats out of ears by shaving it but still looking like it had a full ear. So I still have to determine what I'm doing here, but this one wasn't a good example. So she had all of her matting was at the base of her ear. So basically what you do is you push back the hair as much as possible to find where there is no mat, shave the area that's matted, and then the other hair on top will lay down and cover that most of the time. But hers was so thick, that wasn't an option. But also with spot shaving, you don't have to go down to the root of the hair to spot shave. You don't have to make a massive dent in the dog's coat and obvious you can find the base of the mat, which is oftentimes not really close to the skin, and just quickly buzz it away, and it doesn't show. You'd never know it happened. So anyhow, yeah. So I'm gonna do the back of her neck, and then brush out her top knot and her ears, and then I'm gonna decide what to do with those ears. I'm probably gonna have to shave them just because of how high I had to go. It's not gonna cover it. It's not gonna hide that area. So I'm just gonna take it off for a second and back brush. Use your judgment if the dog is obedient enough to do this. Otherwise, you could lower the bar and do a crossbody with your loop and still have full security over the dog. In my setting, let's just say she wanted to go ahead and jump down anyhow. In my setting, I don't have other dogs floating around. I don't have other groomers, so it's okay. It's not ideal, but it's okay. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this on her again, and I'm going to get my 10 blade because I need to, that neckline with the clean face, make it even. Alright, so just try to elevate their heads as much as possible, push everything out the way, and just line it up. You can tell where the line is and just make it even. Watch out for those skin flaps. Get it side to side. You don't have to go like that, you can go like that. Get her hair again. So the reason I use a 10 versus using a 30, I can set, sometimes I use a 15 too, but at this moment in time, I don't have a 15 blade. I could use the 15 on the Primado, but sometimes, because usually with your 5-in-1 clippers, they're 1 speed. So because they're 1 speed, they become like they can't get through the hair as good. Sometimes they'll snatch on hair and it's just a headache. So I'll use my clipper whenever possible. I've always used Andis Ultra Edge 2-speed. I've seen other girls who have the 5-speed. I've seen some who have the newer cordless options, and I've just seen too much negative feedback from the 5-speed, from the cordless, things like the opals and stuff like that, where I don't want one because it's just like a headache to have. They stop working, all these things happen. Alright, so I took my slicker and I combed across everything. I'm going to go back behind with my metal comb now to guarantee that all of the hair is free of tangles. And then we're going to start started my grooming career in corporate, and they, for a number of years, decided they were going to do nice things for their employees for their anniversaries, and so they gave points, and then you went to this website, and based by the number of years you've been employed, you get a certain number of points, and you can get things from these websites, and it's all kind of stuff. Sometimes it was grooming related, sometimes it was just everyday things. I want you to turn this way, please. Okay. So anyway, I got these shears from them. Really nice shears. Alright, so how I do this is I took and put all the hair to the one side. Take the ear with your other hand, pull it down as much as you can. Lightly start going across because you don't want to get that ear accidentally. As the hair is going down, you can see where things are at. Put the ear back. Start edging. And this is just step one, okay? So you're going to make a pretty flat wall here, is what you're trying to do. Take a comb, brush it back across to this other side. And this is where it gets tricky. And the other side is tricky, especially too for left-handed people. So this side, take and the same thing, hold the ear down, but I'm coming from this other side so that I can still get this wall, this flat area, just lightly going. Fold the ear back. Sometimes they don't cooperate. Be very careful going this direction. Watch where your tip of your shear is to make sure you don't catch that ear. Like I said, this side is really difficult because oftentimes they want to move, they want to look around, they don't want to have their head held the way it's being held. So just kind of look back and forth to make sure that you're getting your wall the way you want it. Alright. Now I'm going to take and brush it back. Take all of it and brush it back. Alright, so you got the back side of the head. They don't often like to have their head down so low. But you're basically making the nice rounded back. Alright. Now, brush it forward. And take and go across. Do as little or as much as you prefer. Everyone has their own amount of hair covering the eye, the visor that they like. Alright. But just try not to go too short in that area because then you can't fix it. Alright, so now you're brushing everything up. and you're gonna kinda have a cone shape a little bit. So then you're gonna go across and even that out. Alright, so one trick that I learned, take both ears and you just do that. You're not really pulling on anything, you're not doing anything uncomfortable to the dog, you're just shaking it. And basically what that move does is it mimics when they shake their head. And so all the hair is going to go sticking up that you didn't see, that then you need to go back behind and scissor up to make right. And so now all you're doing is going around the head and getting the shape that you like or your customer likes, because everybody's different. Everybody likes heads different. Like me, I like to start it at the occiput. Other people like to take it down real low. So basically know what your client wants, the style, and then just shape it up. And so you're going to be constantly moving their head around, which they're getting annoyed, as you can see. Getting the thing stuck on it, and then it messes up your line. So for me, I always struggle on the left side because of my wall that I create. I can't really see it too well when I have to reach around like that. This is my method. You do whatever you want to do. So just flip it up, comb it, whatever, and keep looking for your sticky outies. And go light, because you can really screw that really fast and you can't save it. You're going to have to go shorter. That's how you save it. Alright, so I'm going to switch over to my thinners. I have chunkers, technically, that I like to use for this kind of stuff, so that I have a little bit of give, so that if I take too much up, I can blend it still. Whereas with the shears, I couldn't blend it. So secrets for me, I'm technically legally blind in my left eye. So when I'm doing a dark colored dog like this, it's really hard for me. And that's why I have so many lights in here. You know, first of all, the room is dark without all these lights. The design, the lighting in here is awful, and it is one of the things that will be addressed at a later date. I will have more lighting put in, but until I can afford the electrician to come out to do that, I'm just making do with what I got. So yeah, just you're looking around, making sure everything's even all the way around. Yep. And so now I'm going to work on her ears. let's go ahead and shave them. This ear isn't bad, it's this ear is the problem. This one has such a difference between where the hair is and where the mats were at and shaved. I'm sorry, I'm covering everything right now, but she wants to look this direction. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and shave them. I tried. That's all you can do sometimes is try. I'm gonna go ahead with the 7 on the ear. Be careful. Know your angles. There's lots of flaps on the ears that can get cut easily. So once I finish shaving the ear, now I'll have to go back and blend the top knot into the ear so it doesn't look weird. This is one of the bad things about having cords. It gets stuck and you have to stop what you're doing and readjust, and it happens. It's part of it. So there's pros and cons to having a corded clipper and a cordless. So do your own research. Always have a backup, no matter what you do. Because if it doesn't work out, you have to have something to use. A lot of times these cordless clippers are super expensive too. I don't understand it. That's something about my Permato that I really like. Its plug, it has an option that you can set it up onto the charging stand, or the, let's just say you're doing something where you're not done yet, you're using your cordless clipper, and the battery starts to die, and then you're screwed, right? Well, not with the Permato, because you can take the power cord and connect it to the actual tool, and then you can continue to use it as if it was a corded clipper. With the Bravara and those other models that are 5-in-1s, you have to have extra batteries. So you're spending extra money on batteries just to make sure that if you're relying on that, you're going to have have backup batteries to use. And for some reason, all the batteries in the world cost too much. Alright, so now I'm going to do the scissoring at the ear. I prefer taking straight, some will use curves. I just feel like a curve, you're kind of guessing where that curved point is going to end, and you don't want it to end cutting the dog ear, so I just like to use the straight. And so basically you just use your index finger and your thumb, and you find the edge of the ear, and you just cut the hair around that's angle in which I'm doing it, that's on purpose because you always want to clip this direction or this direction. You don't want to ever clip like this because you might cut the ear. And also holding the ear, you have control of them, so when they move like that, you're not going to also make a huge mistake and cut. See, I can cut myself, but I'm not cutting the dog. I think that's something that isn't talked about often is how much we injure ourselves. I've cut my hand and fingers and other areas so many times because I'm scissoring and the edge of the shear will be in those other areas and I'll cut myself. Oftentimes it's just really small baby like paper cuts, but I've had friends that I've known who have had pretty major cuts where they were a little scissor happy and chopped off part of their knuckle. I've seen groomers talk about cutting off part of their fingertips. It's kind of crazy. Alright, so now I don't know if y'all noticed, but when you're doing a clean face, try to keep that little chin hair, because that chin hair is then going to be able to help you manage the face like this. See how she's back and forth. What I'm doing here is kind of dangerous, so I don't recommend everyone doing it. It's just, I know what I'm doing, so I just did it real quick. Alright, so now I'm going to take and trim off this because now I'm done with her top knot and all of this can go. I'm going to show you a secret, a tip for getting this hair on the inside of the lip. So, you're going to take and you're going to pull the lip back. She's not being cooperative at all. So you pull it back and then you buzz it. She really is like, no, you're not doing that. So I can't hardly even show y'all properly because she's not letting me. Alright. Okay, so she is done. Right now it is the month of October and I am doing Halloween bandanas for everyone. Mommy didn't pick one because I wasn't thinking about it when she dropped off, so I will choose a bandana for her. And this is grooming. You know, you think you're done and then you notice something and then you want to fix it. And, you just got to know when to stop because you can't nitpick for eternity. You have to, at some point, finish the dog because they have to go home and you have to move on to another dog of yours. For those who are concerned right now that I left her alone, she is 2 feet away, barely behind this camera. I have my bandana set up. And so now I'm going to put this one on because it's going to contrast her coat very well. And look how cute she is. Now I'm going to do my finishing spray. I have a product called Quicker Slicker by Nature's Specialties. This stuff is really good. I need to scissor up her legs a little bit. I forgot all about that. How dare I neglect a big portion of the groom by doing that? For the most part, she doesn't need a whole lot, so that's good. Okay, now I'll finish her up. So she's done now. Quicker Slicker Spray. It just makes the coat super soft. Helps her with brushing too. So that's just for that. It is lightly scented, but it's not enough to say that she is smelly good. So I'm going to go up with my Nature Specialties Pumpkin Spice Latte, since we're in that season. And now she smells delicious, and she's beautiful. So that's that. I hope everyone enjoyed this groom, and I will see y'all later.